All right, today's podcast is going to talk about war with Mother Russia. A lot of people on the left seem to be war hawks with Russia. And they just managed to get Donald Trump's Secret Service, his national intelligence guy, Mr. Flynn, fired, or he resigned. The really bad thing about that is the guy was doing his job. He talked to Russia. He was planning conversations with the Russians as part of the transition. That was his job. And the media managed to go after him so bad. They tried to make prep work like preparing communications with the other major nuclear power on planet Earth a crime. And they managed to catch him in a white lie. He said he didn't talk about particular things that he might have talked about in a recorded conversation. This really, it was so minor, but the idea that the massive hostility between the Democrats and the left, as far as it relates to Russia, to me it looks like they want a war. They want a war with the Russians. Now let's look what that would entail. If you go nuclear, everyone in the northern hemisphere would be dead almost immediately. That means you, your children, your parents, your family, your friends. We've got thousands of nuclear weapons. They've got thousands of nuclear weapons, and ours are capable of reaching them, and theirs are capable of reaching us. Horrible situation to start. Option two, a conventional war. Russia has a hell of an army, and invading Russia, if you ask any Germans that are still around, is a real bitch. But the first thing you're going to have to do, in my opinion, if you want war with Russia, is you're going to have to bring back the draft, and you should draft men and women to be equal. Do that for 2 years, build up the army, get them trained, get them into Europe, and then plan a pincer movement, which would mean we attack from the Pacific past Japan, use Japan as a base to go into Russia from one side and Europe from the other, and we can catch them in a two-front war. That would be the only logical way to beat them conventionally. The problem with beating them conventionally is when you get to that point, they'd use their nukes. So what would be more realistic Democrat scenario? You put American troops in to help the NATO country of the Ukraine. The Ukrainians would love our help. The Russians, on the other hand, not so much. So if you get into an actual armed conflict on Russia's border, remember, Ukraine is like Canada to America. It's up against their border. It's close to their capital. God forbid you start winning, and maybe you get within 100 miles of Moscow. The Russians would use nukes to defend themselves. And if you're going to use nukes, you probably won't stop at tactical. If they use tactical nukes, we would use tactical nukes against them. Now you're in a position to both sides have used nukes that would quickly escalate into ending all life on Mother Earth. Why the Democrats want to pick that fight is something they should be called out on publicly. You want to know, why do you want to start a war with the only other major nuclear power that would logically end in the ending of life on planet Earth? And if they have a good answer for that, great. But that's not a game you want to play. You don't want to pick a fight that you intend to bluff. You never really want a war with Russia. You don't want a nuclear war. You're not willing to do a first strike. Option two, you're going to run your mouth but not fight. That is a bad strategy. I'm going to pick a fight that I have no intentions of fighting. That's the only thing I can see the Democrats doing. I think they like to run their mouth because they don't believe the fight will ever happen. So you've gotten rid of one person, but you continually put this antagonistic position on Mr. Trump, and you blame everything on the Russians. And the Russians hear this stuff. They're not very happy with the left here. So as a peace-loving American, I want this hatred of Russia and this attempt to start a war by the Democrats to be called out and to stop. I'm Tim. This is Tim's TV, and this is my blog.